Hey, thanks for everybody coming out tonight and being here for our open practice. It's hard to believe that we've been practicing for a month. I think for the coaches it goes fast, and for the players it goes a little slow until the first game comes. Really proud of the way that our guys have embraced each other, which is the most important thing this time of year. As Tom Crean said when he came for the Final Four celebration in August, the only way you're going to go far is if you go together. And if you don't do it together, you're not going to go where you want to go. So we've got a really connected group right now, but we haven't played any games yet. We haven't been tested or challenged yet by outside competition other than closed scrimmages. We open up on November 7th, and with 11 days between now and then, there's so much work left to be done, and our emphasis to our guys is focusing on what's important now. It'd be really, really easy to just fast forward mentally to that game. But right now we have a lot of habits to continue to build. We have a lot of concepts to keep getting better at, and we need to prepare ourselves to be ready for game one because we'll have good competition very early in the season.
Shaka, with you guys having to replace so much scoring, Cam and Omax are kind of the obvious guys that people are pointing to fill that void. As a coach, how do you prepare those guys for taking on more responsibility and even mentally, like more scrutiny?
Well, it's kind of two different things. I think your first question is about getting guys ready to take on an additional scoring load, and we're going to do that by committee. I do think the two guys you mentioned will score more than they did last year, but so will David Joplin, so will Stevie Mitchell, so will Tyler Kolek, so will Oso Ighodaro. So for us, the way we've always coached, we've never really been caught up in, having one or two guys that average a certain number. It's more about the team, style of play, playing for one another, sharing the ball, getting in the paint, creating closeouts, and then creating, the number of points we want to score as a team through that. If we score 85 points, then those guys that we just mentioned are the ones scoring those points, not me or the coaches. In terms of scrutiny, that's a completely different thing. I think the exciting thing this time of year is we start to do events like this, which are not the same as games, but it gets our guys in front of some people when for months we've been behind closed doors, pretty much working out by ourselves. And I thought, honestly, Ben, today there was just a couple of those guys had some nervousness just being out there in front of a few people in Fiserv Forum, which is good. It's really good. Scrutiny comes at this level. It comes for coaches. It comes for players. Just like praise comes when you play well, and that's part of it. And, our guys, our emphasis is always to control what we can control. I think when you are a man in the arena, you understand that those that are not are going to have thoughts and criticisms, but your focus needs to be on what you can do to be the best you can.
Kind of going off of that, Coach, where have you seen the biggest growth in Omax from year one to year two now here at Marquette? And then what are the benefits of him playing from the international style of basketball for this year?
I think the biggest growth in Omax has been his overall basketball maturity. He understands the game better. His poise has improved. His ability to make reads on the offensive end. He was flat out a stalwart for us defensively last year. Led our team in number of games in the gold, which is a standard for us. That's very, very important. Was unbelievably important in our big wins, like both Villanova games, in guarding multiple defenders. In terms of international basketball, I think for him and Ben, both of them have benefited from playing against different styles of basketball. But then it's an adjustment back to, college basketball where the rules are slightly different. But I'm really excited for Omax going into his third year, and it's exciting. Anytime you have a guy that's in a similar role, not that he's not going to be asked to do more because he absolutely is, but he like last year, he played significant minutes for us. He started the majority of our games. Anytime you have a guy coming back, now he's ready to take on more within that role, and that's definitely Omax.
With Zach, I'm just wondering, what did you see in him during the recruiting process first that made you think he could make that leap from the NAIA level, and just how has he adjusted so far?
It's a big leap. I mean, it's a big jump. And the biggest thing I saw was he's a winner. He makes winning plays. He affects winning on the defensive end and on the offensive end. He went 37-1 last year and was National Player of the Year and won a national championship. So we need winning contributions. We need competitive character on our team, and he definitely brings that. He's also older. You know, as you know, we have a young team. We've got a lot of guys that are still becoming. And to have a guy that's 22 years old and has been through some wars, regardless of the level, I think will really help us. But his character and his competitive character was the biggest thing that drew us to him. And as I mentioned out there, he had surgery this summer, which is an unlucky thing for him to miss most of the summer. Again, I would definitely advise anyone following our team, watch how much better Zach is in November than he was in October. Then watch how much better he is in December than November, and so on. He's going to keep getting better as he gets accustomed to this level. He's a guy that's very, very conscientious and wants to help the team in so many ways, but he also needs to go be aggressive and do what he knows to do. He's the only guy on our roster that's won a national championship or been a National Player of the Year. So we definitely need him to assert himself.
Shaka, you've mentioned a couple of times how Sean Jones is the fastest player you've seen on a basketball court. Is there a little bit of, okay, you got to run the offense, or a little bit of, okay, you got to stay within the system, or do you want a guy to just play free because he is that fast?
No, it's both. I mean, you definitely got to run the offense. You definitely have to get us organized. I think the biggest thing for Sean right now is all the things that great point guards do that are outside of athleticism, outside of quickness, outside of even, shot making or passing. All the mental and basketball IQ components of playing that position, all the organizational and leadership components of playing that position, he has to keep improving with. And that's for any freshman coming in playing that position, but particularly for someone that goes so fast like Sean does. But I'll tell you what, I'd rather have someone with that type of speed and quickness and change of pace and then have to teach him some of the nuances and some of the reads and how to organize things than you can't really teach quickness and speed. And I think he's going to be able to really affect the game in a lot of ways for us. I think he's a great change of pace from Tyler, but I think he's also someone that can play with Tyler and take certain pressure off him at certain times and create shots for him.
You joked about this out there, but when you guys first got here and Oso was kind of deciding whether he wanted to stick around or not, now you're talking about putting the ball in his hands and handling the ball more than any center in the country. Just how have you seen him evolve in your time together and specifically over the last couple months getting ready for?
Well, I'll tell you what, in this dynamic of transfers and, things changing on almost a daily basis in a lot of different programs, I'm a believer in rewarding guys that have been here, that have worn this jersey, that have given blood, sweat, and tears to this program, and that have sacrificed for the betterment of their teammates and their team. And he's done that. Last year, he played as part of a two-headed monster with Kerr, and there was several times throughout the year where he played better than Kerr and could have felt like, hey, I should be the starter. But he didn't start. And I really appreciated his attitude and his teamship last year. So absolutely we're rewarding him for that. But he's also rewarding himself through the work that he's put in. I think you're really going to enjoy watching just the uniqueness of his game and the way that our style of play utilizes his game. Now, he's going to be that position in our league is loaded. So he's going to have his hands full, and he's going to have some real challenges with some guys that are not necessarily taller. A couple of them are taller, but stronger and bigger than him. And that's going to be a heck of a challenge for him and our whole team. And we're going to have to counteract that size and that strength and girth with some of our advantages. We have a lot of advantages on our team. We have certain areas where other teams might have advantages over us. We have to focus on pressing our own advantages. And I can promise you this, if we press our advantages, we have a chance to be a very, very good team. But that doesn't just happen. You have to go out and do that every day as a team.
With DeAndre on the coaching staff, what have you been able to learn in your relationship with him over these last 2 years, and what's he able to bring to the coaching staff and the team as a whole?
DeAndre Haynes is terrific. He brings energy. He brings winning experience. Everywhere he's been, he's won as a player and as a coach. Because he plays several years of professional basketball, he has an on-the-court know-how that I think is unique compared to the rest of our coaching staff. It's one thing to see the game, and it's one thing to coach the game. But if you've played the game at a high level for a long time, there's certain nuances that just come more naturally to you, and he definitely has that. He's an energy giver. He really, really cares about the guys on our team. He's got great relationships with our guys. One thing I really appreciate about our staff is we do a lot of coaching of each other's mentees. So each of our guys has a set of mentees that they're kind of in charge of, helping them organize their lives on and off the court. Well, DeAndre is not just worried about his mentees. He's coaching Stevie Mitchell and spending time with him, Imarion Ellis. All of our guys, to a man, have great relationships with DeAndre, and that's a testament to him.
Shaka, you said at the beginning of the summer that you and the staff were going to kind of study why the team faded a little bit down the stretch last season. What'd you guys do to prepare so that doesn't happen again this time around?
Well, I mean, we're a long way away from that point in the season, but at the same time, Ben, we did in the spring quite a bit of talking and discussion in our program, coaches and players, on the stretch where we went 8-1, and then the last 9 games of the year when we went 3-6. And in both of those stretches, we played very good competition. We played arguably maybe better competition when we went 8-1. And we talked about what the difference was. And there's certain things that are probably obvious to you guys that were differences, basketball-wise. And then there's certain things that were a little bit more subtle and still make a big difference with winning and losing. At the end of the day, the most important thing is being a connected unit around one common cause. And we flat out were better with that when we went on that 8-1 stretch. I think we were about as connected as anyone in the country during that stretch. So the obvious, response to that is we'll be that all the time. Absolutely. That's our job, is to work towards that. But it doesn't just happen. You have to, as a team, starting with me as a head coach, going all the way through our staff and our players, you have to submit to the team ego. You have to be willing to let go of some of the noise, whether it's media, social media, family, friends, people from home that really are just focused on you and your shortcomings or your successes when we're trying to go do something special as a team. By the way, when we went 8-1, there was a lot more individuals on our team doing special things than there were when we went 3-6. So, yeah, we spent a lot of time talking about that, and a lot of time talking about how we can be our best. But again, it's not even November yet, so we're not quite to that point in the season. It's certainly a goal of ours to be playing our best at the end of the year. So, the goal is to keep growing and improving between now and then really be willing to do everything it takes as a group to be playing our best.
Coach, every year you, like with your players, you hit the reset button, right? Whether they're experienced or not. And you probably have a point of emphasis. This is what I want to see out of you. What about your reset button? When you reset from year 1 to year 2 here at Marquette, what do you want to do better as a head coach here?
No, continue doing the things we're doing, but do them better. We're about relationships, growth, and victory. Those are our 3 core values. That's not going to change. So we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but I'm trying to be better with relationships. I'm trying to make sure that as a staff, we do an even better job of helping our players grow. Trying to do an even better job of helping them understand what goes into winning. and how to create success, not just in a basketball game, but in life. And so, yeah, we reset, but it's, you have a set of beliefs, core beliefs as a coaching staff and as a coach that probably are not going to change. You're just always looking for ways to do those things better. And for me, I guess part of the reset is looking around and seeing who's doing those things really, really well and then trying to learn from them. Every fall, I try to learn as much as I can from football teams just because football precedes basketball in the calendar year. And so when they're starting in late August with their games and their training camp in early August, we're just kind of getting into finishing summer school and getting into school. It's a great time to look, okay, what are these guys doing to build relationships on their team? What are they doing to facilitate growth? Who's doing the best job of helping their players understand how to affect victory? So that's probably the main reset for us as coaches is just trying to learn how to do what we do better.
You got that second closed-door scrimmage on Saturday. Why did you decide that doing 2 of those was the best way to prepare your team for the season other than, one of those in an exhibition game? Like
competition. There's pros and cons of, scrimmages versus exhibitions. The great thing about playing an exhibition is you can kind of simulate with the crowd a home game. But the reality is, over the years, we've typically won, the places I've been, we've typically won those games against, you better win. Now, although there's some D2 teams that go beat some people. But I think sometimes if you win by 30, 40, 50, even if you talk about it as a coaching staff and as a program, it can create a false sense of, oh, this isn't so hard. And that's as a team amongst the players, but it's also amongst individual players, particularly freshmen. I've seen over the years freshmen play really, really well in that exhibition game and then just get smacked in the mouth when you play the first real game because it's just different. It's just different. Not just the competition's different, but the feel of it is different. So for us and where we are, in year 2, we're still certainly becoming. We're not a fully actualized group yet or program yet. For us to have the opportunity to play 2 high caliber opponents in scrimmages, it's probably it is a better opportunity for us to prepare for game 1.
You've talked a lot about how you guys are going to play fast this year, a lot of transition, but when you play against good teams, sometimes the game slows down and you're in the half court a lot. Are you guys going to look different in the half court this season? Is that where you lean more on Oso handling the ball and initiating offense?
Yeah, we'll look different. I mean, we have different pieces, so I think it's important anytime you have different pieces to make sure what you're doing fits them. There'll be more screening actions for Cam Jones just because he's better coming off of screening actions, him and Jop, and scoring the basketball than he was last year. And so is Jop. I think, you'll still see the ball in Tyler's hand a lot. You'll still see a lot of pick and roll. You'll see Oso handling the ball a lot more than he did. A lot of decision-making from him. Depending on lineups, you'll see us post up different guys. So it'll be slightly different, but the way we want to play is we want to play with great speed up the floor, and we want to play with great pace in the half court. And even when the game gets bogged down in the half court, you can still play with pace within the possession. There were certain possessions today. I thought our team defensively today had some tremendous possessions where they made it hard for the offense to get a shot. Offensively, you've got to continue playing with pace, moving the ball, cutting hard, getting to the next play, and you have 30 seconds to go get a good shot. We're a team that it usually doesn't take us that long. I think we were 5th in the country last year in terms of, Ken Pom tempo. But you know what? If we're playing a good team and we got to work a little harder for it or do a little more for it, then that's what we got to do.
A few weeks ago when we met with you, you were talking about the progress Jop was making. Then he obviously had his injury. Do you see his role increasing with the loss of Justin and Kerr in that forward? And how could we see his role is extended?
Well, ultimately, his role is up to him. His role will absolutely increase. It's just a matter of how much, and that's the part that's up to him. He was 10th on our team last year in minutes, which meant that some games he got in, he was part of the rotation. In other games, he maybe got in once or twice, or I don't know if he had a couple games where he didn't get in at all. I really appreciate the way that he, for the most part, was ready to play last year, even when he didn't necessarily know when he was going in. When we won at Villanova in January, this was a crucial part of that game. We were going through a tough stretch with Justin in the second half of that game. We were down about 8 or 10, and we subbed Jop in for Justin. I don't know that he'd been in yet. If he had, it'd been for a minute or two. And he went in, and he was ready to play. He missed his first shot, but then he went and scored 2 big buckets that really, really helped us. And he also played well on the defensive end, and that was pivotal for us just to stay attached in that game. And then obviously Justin was able to come back in and score the last 7 points of the game. So he's not going to be 10th on our team in minutes. The question is, how much does he move up the ladder? He's a guy that is capable of someday leading this conference in scoring, someday. He has to decide when that day is. He's the guy. I asked him out there, who do I coach the hardest? He said him. Maybe, maybe not, but we're definitely hard on him because he has more to give. He has more in there to pull out. He's definitely pulled more out of himself this year than he did last year, but he's still got way more in there. And he's a guy, I hate this term, but he's a gamer. So he gives you a little more in the game than he does in practice, but he's also got to learn. If you don't build the habits on a consistent basis in practice, which he's been much, much better about, then there's still going to be a cap or a ceiling on how good you can be when the game comes. I would say he's had 2 or 3 practices this fall where he's been by far the best player on our team. And so now his goal needs to be to extend that from 2 or 3 in the course of a month to doing it on a regular basis.